Alright, what up everybody? This is Pac-Man 1987 and you're watching Crash to Desktop. I'm back again today with some Kerbal Space Program. I'm going to kind of continue my adventures with my Apollo recreation. If you watched my last episode of me streaming this, I was testing the lunar lander and the service module in space and got them in orbit around the moon. And I think today we're in orbit. Might as well try to test landing, which is probably going to result in some failures a few times, so we'll see how that goes. But the other thing I want to do today, should be fun, is once we're done testing and we get this pod back, I'm going to test something I just did before the stream, and it's actually why I was a little late starting my stream compared to what I wanted to do. I had to do something fun with some math to try to solve the problem I'm having building my launch vehicle, where for some reason Kerbal Engineer and the in-game thing don't seem to be telling me proper delta-v values for the rocket for each stage. They weren't having any problem with the command and service module on the lander, but the launch vehicle is just throwing them for a loop. So I'm going to have to do them on paper, and I did something fun that's going to make that easier, so we'll play with that later. For the moment though, let's take a look at the tracking station. What do we got going on here? Oh, I actually managed to get something into a goofy orbit. That's fun. I don't think... Let's see. No, that's going to stay in orbit forever. That's very silly. Oh well, not very important. So the only other thing we've got running right now is this here. And let's take a look at it. Alright, so there we go. We are in orbit around the moon. And this is my command and service module and lunar module combo. Now, we're going to have to do a few things before we try testing any landing. One, we don't really know that it's actually even going to work. The first thing I'm going to do, just before I get any of that started, is I'm going to transfer Jeb. Where is that at? Transfer crew. I'm going to stick him in here. And who is my engineer? Yeah, we'll send him. That'd probably be a good idea. We're going to send Jeb and Bill to the surface. So they're in the landing module now. Let's see though. We want to take a look at a few other things. Let's look at the map. Let's see what we've got. We're in about a 15.5 by 15.1 orbit. Here's the light side of the moon right now. This is good because I've actually done this before and landed near these craters, or used these craters as a guideline for getting into a landing or a descent that I want to do. So this is actually, these are probably going to help us. So let me show you a couple fun tricks. One thing that you can do. When I'm trying to decide where I'm going to land, I kind of need to know what the altitude of the terrain is, and I don't always know that unless I've already flown over it. So what we can do to guess is we can set up a maneuver node on the opposite side of the planet, and we can set it up, pull it in, rotate it around. So this is the point where I want to start my burn. And we kind of want to get an idea of what the altitude of terrain is. Now I already know what it is because I've done this before, but we'll use this as an example. So if you kind of bring your periaps down until it's just intersecting the ground visually, you get a rough estimate of what that terrain altitude is above sea level. So it's about 3,400. The goal is to start my descent burn, at least with this vehicle, assuming that it still works as I intend it to. We want to start my descent burn when I'm about 5.3 kilometers above the surface, and that should give us more than enough time, at least from that point, to do it. Now, The tricky bit is we kind of need to figure that out now. So let's see, 5 point, what did we say it was? 3.149, 3.2-ish. I feel like 9.6. We'll try that. So what we really want to do is we want to do a burn on the opposite side of the planet that sets our periaps at about 9 kilometers up above that. And then we'll see if it works. We should end up somewhere kind of like here if it works properly. This thing does not have a lot of thrust, so what do we got to do before we do that? Well, we're gonna need to, I need to check one thing real quick, actually. That. Okay. What we need to do is we need to do our separation. We're gonna do that right now. So let's line this vehicle up. Turn on SAS. We want to set it to point outward. The real vehicle, when they did this, that was the maneuver they did. They pointed away from the planet. And you'll kind of see why in a minute. Okay, so we've used a little boost of time warp to stabilize. And control from here. We're gonna go ahead and undock. Now you notice right away, it gives us a little push. We're heading in this direction. And what's gonna happen, the reason this is advantageous, is that we're going to fall away from it. We're going to fall outward away from the planet, and that's going to actually cause our speed relative to the command module to be slower as we get higher, because you lose speed as you climb in altitude, at least relative to other objects in a similar orbit. So we're gonna, over time here, you're gonna see we're gonna start drifting backwards in our orbit. It's gonna get ahead of us. It's going faster, so it's gonna speed away from us a bit. Which is fine, because we want to be behind it when we start a descent burn. So right now, we want to do a couple things. Let's just double check everything. Alright, we've got that. How's our staging look? Looks pretty good. Can't 100% guarantee that that second stage bit will work later on, but you know, it's just kind of how it goes. Let's see. That's looking good. Got plenty of RCS, fuel, yep. Okay. Let's put our gear down. This is what they would have done in real life too. First thing you do when you undock is you deploy the landing gear, because you kind of need to make sure that that works before you try to land. If it had not worked, they would have gone ahead and aborted, docked right back up with the spacecraft, and would have been on their way home. Obviously that's not going to happen in Kerbal. Now we're going to do the orbital change maneuver with the main engine, which is what they did too. And the reason for that was that they were going to test the main engine to make sure it fired. Again, you're pretty close to this thing still. If your main engine doesn't work when you try to set up your descent orbit, you just fly back over and dock up and go home. But again, we're just going to kind of do that to match what they did. Let's see, we're controlling from here. Let's make sure that's actually still happening. Turn that on. Let's set it that we want to point retrograde. And I'm actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn SAS off, and I'm going to do this mostly manual. Ooh, that's got a lot of kick. Okay. And we'll kind of stabilize there. There we go. We're pointing retrograde. Now we need to actually plot that maneuver. Let's see what we can do here. Be right about somewhere there, I think. There we go. And our goal here, we're shooting for about a 9-kilometer periaps. Now I already know that that's what I want to shoot for. Maybe a little more. Let's see. Fine tune this with precise node. That's about where I want it to be. 9.1, that looks good. We'll try 9 kilometers. I make no promises that that works. May even want to create a couple of quick saves so we can do some fun quick save hopping if we need to for testing purposes. So let's do that. Reburn. Alright, and that's going to be a whopping 4.2 meters per second. Massive burn. We are going to go ahead and activate? I'm very scared to press spacebar now. Yeah, I figured that was going to happen. Figured that. Go ahead and load that quick save real quick. Why is that not goofy? Oh, I know why it's not working. It's because I manually turned it off earlier. That's funny. Okay. Alright, so we have an engine. Hey, how's it going? Just doing some setup for a descent burn. On a descent initiation burn. We're going to change our orbit, and then we'll do a burn. I'm going to try to land this thing, and I'm not 100% certain that it's going to work, so this should be fun. But we'll give it a try. And then later on, after we play around with this a bit, I actually... the reason I was a little late starting, I was going to start at 7, but I ended up starting at about 7:30, was because I was doing some math that I think is going to help me with my launch vehicle problems, because it just wasn't letting me design it properly the other day. So I'm going to kind of show that and see if it works. So let's go ahead and start here. So let's see, we want to... Oh, wrong way. I want to line up. The reason I'm doing most of this manually is I want to use as minimal an amount of RCS fuel as I possibly can manage. Come on. There we go, that's more or less stable. We're lined up to do this burn. How long until we get to it? That is a very short burn. 1.4 seconds long. We may do that at like half thrust, just to make it take a little longer. We're about 12 minutes out. Go ahead and do a quick save and then try to warp to it. Warp to about here. You'll see, right now I decoupled so that the lander went higher in the orbit than the command module, which is making us drift further back away from it over time, which is good because we're not going to run into it now. We're about 2 real-time minutes away from the burn. I'm probably going to start it a few seconds earlier than it says I should, and just do it at a lower thrust value. Alright, going back to real time, we're a minute away. We hit about maybe 10 seconds. I'm going to turn on SAS until I fire the engine. Quick save here too, real quick. About 25 seconds out. At 10 seconds, turning on the RCS. There we go. Go ahead and turn my RCS off. Need it right now. Take a look at my fuel. That's pretty good. I don't have a lot of RCS fuel on this thing, so I'll have to be careful with that. It depends on how into it you get. I kind of take it a little too seriously, so so it mine gets a little complicated, but it's not too hard to make something like Apollo. Like, I can kind of show you later. You can make little small rockets that use the same kind of staging, and it's pretty simple. These new parts are making it a lot more simple too. This thing, the lander, was so easy to design compared to my old stuff. That looks pretty good. That's kind of where I want to be. We'll wing it. We'll see how this goes. We might need to go back in time later and do an orbital adjustment or what have you. I'm not even 100% on the timing of this, but I believe I want to start right here at the periaps. So we'll give that a go. We'll see what happens. So let's see. We want our surface indicators. And what we're going to be looking at is our time to periaps. Let's go over here real quick. We're going to do an attitude change. Huh, that's kind of weird. Why is that going on? I believe my chat relay thing updated tonight, so I'm guessing it goofed something up. Let's take a peek at it real quick. Go ahead and, if you're still watching it, type something for me real quick. Let's see if it still does it. That was kind of weird. I know if I type something, it's going to do it. Interesting. I have no explanation for why that's happening. Hi there. I'm gonna check one more option here real quick. That's really odd. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't know why that's happening. But we'll go ahead and, I'm going to say we ignore that for now. And I'm going to have to look up why that's occurring later and get it fixed for the next stream. I don't want to waste a lot of time on it. So everybody in the future is just gonna think we're a bunch of weirdos talking twice. Well, I'm doing some testing in orbit around the moon. I'm getting ready to do a descent initiation burn, which may or may not result in me safely landing. Actually, I think there is a warp drive mod, or there was. I don't know if it's been kept up to date. But I feel like there was one at some point. It was like an Alcubierre drive mod. I never did mess with it, but it looked really cool. Maybe I'll check it out again sometime, see if it still exists. Just gonna line up. Oop. Okay. I'm also going to rotate the craft. For the sake of ease of control. Get very interesting. So what's my time to periaps? We're looking solid. About 1 minute and 45 seconds out. And we're just gonna see what happens here. Usually, if I do the burn the way I think it's working, I'll land somewhere between these craters over here. I like a nice flat spot. Really though, the objective here is to just see if this thing even lands successfully, or if I have the right technique down for it. I'm gonna set my SAS to hold retrograde. We'll turn the RCS on pretty soon. And we're just gonna play with it. About 42 seconds out. I'm going to time warp a little bit. Alright, we're about 30 seconds from where I think I want to start the burn. Seconds. 15. Alright, 10. 9. It is wildly jumping all over the place. That's interesting. We are some number of seconds away from where I'm starting the burn. Let's just go with that. I'm also going to have this keep an eye on my monoprop. I don't want to use too much of it. Now this thing, I have set it up. It has a semi-accurate amount of thrust to what the real vehicle would have had. As in the thrust to weight ratio is about the same. I made it a little higher for ease of landing, because the real vehicle, it's nuts how little thrust it actually had. And let's see, what's it saying? We're looking pretty solid, I think. Our suicide burn altitude is still like 2,000 kilometers, so we could probably throttle down a fair bit. Yeah, we'll throttle way up. Let's burn off at horizontal velocity. Looking good so far. I feel like I'm probably gonna crash this try. I could be wrong, but that's what testing is for. And that's coming up really fast. How's my vertical speed looking? See if we can burn some of that off. Yeah, we're gonna crash. That's okay. We have to revise the descent plan. Well, maybe, maybe not. I mean, we've got tons of fuel, so. Yeah, we've got. Let me give myself a little boost. Okay. I think so. Need to get rid of this pesky surface velocity, which is going away really nice and fast. Looking good. Looking really good. Yep, we got this. Now we're on final descent. So what we want to do is let it drop a little faster. That's what we want to do. And then we're going to switch to attitude hold shortly. We're on kind of a slope. That might be a problem, but we'll see. There we go. Last few meters. And cut the engines. We landed. Yes, I have. Actually, I've done that a few times. One time I was messing around with a buddy in a now defunct multiplayer mod, and I had to go save him one time. Like, he got stranded a few hundred meters from our space station. So this thing worked really well. That was exactly the kind of performance I wanted out of it. I'll have to practice those landings a few times before I do like a big show of what it can do kind of mission, but that was pretty solid. I'm definitely going to quick save there. I also did, a really long time ago, one of my first things was went to Joule one time, and I had to build the vehicle in orbit, so it was like multiple pieces stuck together. And what is this crazy thing doing? It's like shifting around strangely. That's weird. You know what I forgot to put on here? I forgot to put a ladder on here. I'm not 100% certain that I can get off this crazy contraption. Let's see. Jeb's crazy enough to try it. Okay, we can get back on here. We'll just have to be really, really careful. Aim camera. What does that do? That's weird. I don't even know what that button does. Oh, yeah. Sure, we'll take an EVA report, grab a surface sample, why not? Now, this will be interesting. I'm not 100% certain that I get him back in there. But we'll try. I don't wanna bump it too hard. There we go. That was pretty good. Okay. So that was a very successful test of the lander. I'd say it performs really well. Even had extra fuel to boot. So now we need to think about getting back into orbit. Now this will be interesting. There was a very fancy way that I've done this before that mimics the actual maneuvers they use to get back to it. But I don't think I'm going to do that today. Just because it was an absolute nightmare to figure out how to do it the first time. It is on my older Apollo recreation video if you want to check it out. I will be doing it again once I do the whole big glorious fly-through of the whole mission. In the meantime, let's think about rendezvousing. So I have a trick to getting a good rendezvous pretty easily. And the trick is we want to look at our target, which is the vehicle in orbit, and we want to look at this rendezvous menu. And the thing we want to look at is, where is it at? Distance. Distance is the straight line's distance to the target. That target is orbiting at 15 kilometers, more or less. If I launch and start ascending into orbit, when that target is about 20 kilometers away from me in a straight line, so coming up this way, so 25% further than its orbital distance, do a normal ascent to orbit and everything, I'll have a couple of options to get a really quick rendezvous. I can actually, instead of doing a full circularizing orbit insertion, do a maneuver immediately to rendezvous with it. I may not have enough time to do that around the moon though. Or I can do a partial circularization and then go around about a half orbit, do one more maneuver, and I'll probably be able to rendezvous within half an orbit from there. So it makes it pretty easy to target something in orbit. Now, let's see if that actually works today. Get that vehicle to swing around the planet. Okay, so it's coming around. And we want to make sure that we actually go in the right direction. I think we want to pitch forward, but we'll test that when we take off. We also want to do one thing here real quick. We're going to turn off the fuel so that the descent stage doesn't try to fire. Or throttle way up. Oh no. I'm definitely gonna have to figure out why that's doing that. I do not know why it's doing that. That's really silly. So distance-wise, it's about 100 kilometers away, so we're gonna speed up a bit. That's pretty good. We're gonna go back to real time. I want to do a few things. I want SAS on. And again, I fully expect this attempt to go into orbit to fail hilariously the first time I try it. But I'm going to cross my fingers that the staging actually works properly for once. We'll see. The other trick is I'm going to ascend to about 10 kilometers. So about a third less than what I'm going up to. Usually seems to work around the moon. I could even do less than that. About ready to take off. At least close to it. I'm gonna speed up just a hair. Okay. And right about... now. Well, would you look at that? It actually worked the first time. Keep that climb occurring there. And the target should be going overhead. There it goes. Probably be a little bit inclined relative to it, but that's okay. I'm gonna let it go prograde now. Start speeding up a bit. I'm pretty good here. Aren't gonna have that much time to figure our orbit out, but that's okay. Okay, good enough for me. Where are we at? We probably need to start the maneuver like now. Yeah, pretty much now. Let's go ahead and do that. We're gonna actually tweak this as we do it. Okay. I'm really just going to do my ascent burn until I am in an orbit. All I really care about. Hopefully we've got enough fuel. Slow down a bit. Well, look at that. I'm barely even doing things and I'm getting fairly close. We can work with that. We still have about 300 meters per second of main engine delta V to play with. Although we could probably do these changes in our orbit with RCS and not have any issues. But we need to save that RCS. Let's see. Go to like here. That looks pretty solid already. Separation 1.9 kilometers. I believe that's separation 0.3. Get any closer than that? 0.1. That looks pretty good. I'll take that. Yeah, and we're going to do that with monoprop because it's like a very, very minuscule change in orbit. So let's go ahead. We're going to reorient. What? Oh, I see what's happening. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and just wait. Because this thing isn't perfectly balanced. So it is, kind of goofing that up, actually. So, let's see. We're about 15 minutes from the node. Let's go ahead and time warp a bit. We're probably going to have to do the rendezvous with the command module, because I don't think this thing's going to have the fuel. But that's fine. We'll work on that. And we're in a really low orbit, so it's not going to warp us very quickly. Excuse me. This is going to be really tricky because I have a feeling I'm going to do most of the burn right then and there. Okay. Let's see. Oh no. We're about 2 minutes from it. Let's speed up a little bit. Okay. The one thing I've learned is I may want to add some more monoprop to this thing hidden inside of it. So we'll play with that later. We're about 25 seconds out from trying to do this. I cut it really close because it's really not much. Two, one. Close enough. Alright, let's see how I did. Close approach separation is 1.2 kilometers. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. I'm gonna work with that. Warp to right about here. Should probably start letting us speed up a little bit soon as I climb. We're actually gonna, are we gonna overtake it? Might overtake it. Yeah, we're getting ahead of it. Okay. Alright, so we're about 4 minutes out from closest approach. I'm actually really kind of close enough already that we could just go with it, but let's see. We don't have a lot of monoprop left. Actually, we can do this rendezvous essentially entirely with RCS. Okay, so we're on final approach. Speed time up just a hair. I'm gonna do a quick save real quick. Okay, we're about 20 seconds away from the rendezvous point. Let's go ahead, switch this to retro, switch it on, and do this maneuver. Perfect. We're now barely moving relative to the target. I'm going to switch this to point radial out. Gonna turn off my RCS, give it a little time warp boost, and we'll set up the rendezvous with the main vehicle. So, oh, and there's my landing site. Flying over it right now. I don't think I can actually see it. All right, so here we are. This has a lot of monoprop. So let's get to rendezvousing. We're close enough that we can just point at the target. Won't have any problems there. We're gonna approach at a nice leisurely, like 2 kilometers per second, I think. And we're gonna coast a little bit until we get closer, and then we'll start doing some fine tuning. I'm also going to control from here. We can speed up a hair. That should be more than enough. Don't want to go too fast and overwhelm my ability to slow down. let's speed up a little bit more. Well, you know what? I'm gonna do some time warping. Keep everything nice and controlled. Alright, we're about 2 minutes away from rendezvous. Let's do a little adjustment. Hello. Okay. Just a little more. I have more than enough mana prep to pull this off, but... Okay, so we're going to start slowing down now. We're going to point at the target. Going to do some adjustment, and we're going to start slowing ourselves. Okay. Correct. Yes, I've been doing some orbital testing today. I landed the lander to make sure it actually works. And I've been testing the command and service module out. We're doing a rendezvous right now to make sure that works smoothly. And then we're going to do a return. So far so good. The command and service module and lander are working really well. I'm going to have to keep working on the launch vehicle though. I was having problems with that. Which, once we get back to the planet, I'm going to take a look at that, and I have a nifty trick to try and make that work better. Hello. Alright, we're about 40 meters out. Looking pretty solid. We're actually lined up pretty good too. Let's set the docking node as our target. That's a little better. Yes. Right now I'm doing a rendezvous in orbit around the moon with the command and service module. What is going on here? One moment. Crazy contraption. This thing is, unfortunately, at this point in the mission, fairly unbalanced. This is looking pretty good. Lineup seems pretty solid. I think I need to go up. There we go. Now we're just basically doing minute adjustments. And we have dock. Nice. That thing is fidgety, but it works. So far, so good. Like I said, my upper stage is great. My command and service module, my lunar module, they're all working really well. My launch vehicle, on the other hand, is going to need some work. Let's get these guys transferred, and we'll ditch the lunar module. Okay. We can even, can we transfer some fuel? Let's see. Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. Let's point radio out. Okay. I'm going to dump the command module away from the moon so it'll fall behind me. Just in case, do a quick save and undock. Alright. So we have discarded the landing module. Go ahead and take a look at what we're going to need to do to get back. Say, like right about there on the opposite side of the planet. How much delta V do I have? I have a whopping 245, and that's about 245. So, wait a minute, that's the maneuver. Never mind. I have 455 to play with. I think I got this. I want to shoot for a periaps around Kerbin. That is, let's see, about 32-ish. Ought to be solid. That's not what we want. There we go. So let's see. About 12 minutes from this node. Go ahead and line up. Okay. So we're more or less lined up for this maneuver. And it's saying it's going to be about 1 minute and 2 seconds long. That looks pretty good. Warp to it. Getting closer. Alright, we're about 1 minute from the burn. I'm going to go back to real time. And when we're close to it, I'm going to fire up the RCS. And then we'll do the burn. after I do the burn, I will translate that and find out what you just said. Alright, we're about 13 seconds away. I'm going to go ahead and fire up the RCS. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Looking good. Ah, okay. Oh, okay. I believe he is asking if I speak French. If I had to guess. I do not, unfortunately, but I can fire up Google Translate. See what we can do with that. So far, so good with my maneuver. Winding down. I'm just going to kind of let it tick off these last few points of a meter a second. Very nice. Okay. See how we did. More or less where I want to be. Not bad. Alright, let me see here real quick. Don't know how good of a job that does. But we'll see. Alright. So, we are back on our way to the planet. Let's see if we can get the view back over here at the moon. There we go. Pretty good trajectory. Gonna warp to right about there. Where'd the moon go? Where you at, moon? I don't even know where it went. I can see some of the planets over there with planet shine. It's looking good. I'm gonna do a slight course correction. Maybe about like right here. Get this view lined up. Where's that darn planet at? I feel like I'm lost in space. Am I looking at the night? I'm looking at the night side of it, aren't I? Yeah, I am. So the planet's like right out here somewhere. Not 100% certain of where. That might be it. That's okay. The cool thing is we're actually going to land on the light side of the planet for a change. I usually end up accidentally landing on the dark side, so I'm cool with that. Let's do a little maneuver. I'm going to point retrograde, I believe. It's really obnoxious. I'm just doing a little RCS maneuver here. Pretty good. Alright, let's get to landing. This should look really cool. Oh, there it is. Ah, I came up fast. Goodness gracious. Man, that was sneaky. I had no idea it was that close. Alright, so we are going to point prograde. So far, so good. I'll rotate so the windows are down. We're going to go into attitude control. We're going to point to the horizon. Am I out of fuel? Well, this will be interesting. Okay. There we go. Oh, like when you're launching and they tilt over? So it can be a couple of things. Usually, I have found it tends to be aerodynamic forces. So you'll be coming up. I can actually show you. I'll build something and launch it, and we'll tip it over. But basically, you catch the air. Yep. Whoa. Oh, is it like the first few seconds after you launch it flips over? Are you by any chance using mech jeb? Or anything like mech jeb that kind of automatically pilots for you? This is looking good. So I had a problem one time using mech jeb where I had somehow managed to place. Okay, so it's not that. Well, I'll explain that question, because it could still be related depending on what other mods you might be using. Okay, you're not using them. Yeah, because I had a rocket I built one time. Yeah, 2 top heavy is possible too. If it's super top heavy, it could just flip over. I don't know. Well, once we land this thing, I'll see if I can make something do that. This is looking good. I think we're actually gonna land. We're gonna land on land. We're pretty much gonna land on land. Kind of weird. Go really high up when we slow down too. Good grief. I'll get a little lower before I fire the drogue chute. Well, for some reason my RCS did not function. Ah, that was why I didn't turn it back on. We'll have to test that a bit. I bet you I can whip something up like that. Go ahead and fire a drogue chute real quick here. Is the payload fairly like wide compared to the rest of the rocket, or fairly bulky? Huh, I think my service module actually made it to the ground. So it's probably not aerodynamic forces. It's really odd that it's happening 100 meters up. That's kind of strange. It very well could be some kind of weight thing, but the rest of that rocket is pretty massive by comparison. That shouldn't really be happening. Are you using SAS during launch? Goodness gracious, we're gonna speed these guys up. They're taking way too long. I don't think I've ever landed in this desert before. This is kind of cool. A sweet mountain. Okay. So SAS is on. Is it set to prograde, or is it just set to attitude hold? And we have a successful landing. So I would say that the upper stage of this rocket worked pretty darn well. Okay, so that shouldn't be doing anything weird. Let's see what we can do with that. I'll go ahead and recover these guys. You said it was, let's see, how heavy was it? 44 tons, payload, 365 ton, rest of the rocket. I mean, that should be fairly stable. Do you by any chance have the ability to upload the part file to like a Google Drive or something? Or a Dropbox? We could poke around with it. I could see if I can make a rocket do that. Let's see. What do I need to do to get it to flip at 100 meters? What can I build? So the ships themselves, the actual craft files for your ships, if you go to the folder that Kerbal Space Program is installed to, it's up on my machine too. You go to your Kerbal Space Program folder. There's a folder called Saves, and in there is every one of your save files. And if you go to the file that you're looking at, where you built that craft, it'll have ships, and then it has the two buildings, and it'll be in there. It'll be a .craft file. And as far as like uploading to a Dropbox or a Google Drive, you know, I don't really use them that much, so I don't know the correct procedure for uploading such a thing so that anybody can check it. But let's see real quick. Maybe I can make something do it. What can we build? Let's just build like a basic rocket and see if we can mess it up real good. In the meantime, the big one. There's the big one. Okay. Let's throw a nose cone on it. Large nose cone. It sounds like something's either going haywire or something is causing it to destabilize and start tipping, and the engines aren't able to correct that with their gimbaling. Is it, what kind of engine, like what engines are you using on it when it's first firing? Is it a mod part or just a standard Kerbal part? Right tank. Where's the right tank? There, no? Echo. There you are. Mainsail on here. Okay, so it's a, okay, yep, okay. Let's see if we can make a rocket do what you're seeing. Any old rocket will do. There we go. SAS for instability. Firing. This thing has enough gimbal that it's going to correct anything that you could do. Let me see if I can get this to catastrophically fail. What you can have happen is you catch enough air and your rocket starts to flip, but I don't think I'll be able to get this one to do it because it's just too simple. This thing's too stable. So let's see if we can destabilize it. And stability assist should just hold it in whatever direction it's going. Ah, okay. get some kind of link. Let's see here. You can link it here, but if you want to keep it private, we can find another way to do that. Let's see. One sec. I've got it. Let me see here. That is the question. Again, I haven't used Google Drive much. Let's do this. Well, no kidding, Kerbal Space Program. That was a catastrophic failure. Good grief. See, I don't think you can do it as just a... Ah, here we go. Okay, so Google Drive, they have an option. I don't know exactly where it's located. I actually have a thing where you can do a shareable link. Don't know where it's at though. And apparently you can do a shareable link. Tell it to do anyone with the link. And then anybody with the link is able to open it. Now, if there are mod parts in it that I don't have, I can't guarantee I'll be able to open it. But if it's all stock, it should work. Okay, let me see. This here. Give me just a moment. There it is. Okay. That looks good. Nice. Okay. Give me just a second. I gotta move it into the right folder, and then we should be able to just reload my save, and it'll pop up. Might take a second. My Windows Explorer is deciding to be really slow right now. There it is. Alright. Alright, so I've moved it into my folder. Cool. Thank you. Well, let's take a look at it, see what we can do. It'll be interesting to see if it happens here. It might even be popping up already. Let me check if I even need to load. There it is. What in goodness name is it trying to do? Oh wow, that is one heck of a payload. Good grief. So something didn't load quite right. It's not, I don't think it didn't bring the engines over, maybe. I'm not sure. What in goodness name did it do? I feel like Kerbal is having some issues with these new parts. Yeah. I'm going to launch this. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to do it. I have to. This is going to be really good. What? It's staying together. I don't understand. I think I see the problem though. Oh, that's why. Okay. Yeah, I don't have the resize mod, so it's not storing the resizes. I'm not 100% certain that those will come over with the file. I could get it real quick. What is this thing doing? One sec. Let's scoot down here real quick. It's just hovering. It's hovering on the pad. Oh, there we go. It's finally doing something. And it's flipping just like yours. Like, there we go. Oh, darn. That was awesome. Let's try that one more time. Okay, here we go. Let me see. Tell you what. Grab that mod real quick. What is that? Tweak scale, I think it is. Here's tweak scale. I'm gonna see. I've never actually tried this. I'm gonna try to install a mod while it's running. It's an adventure. We're gonna find out what happens here. Might have to reload the game to make this work. We'll see. Probably do. Let's just relaunch. I'm curious to see if I have tweak scale, if it will maintain that. Kerbal Space Program is always an adventure. Doesn't like most of my mods. Might take a minute. I like that splash art. I don't actually normally pay attention to the load screen splash art. That looks really good. Love the little blurbs. Snipping the red wire. Good grief. Yep, you gotta add K to every word. Take a look. While we wait for this to load. Going extra slow because I added that mod. Oh, that looks really cool. I'm digging that. That is a heck of a payload. I do think I saw the problem. Although I don't know why it's happening on my version too. It's kind of interesting. But let's see. I'm not sure if I'm right. We're gonna see. Take a peek at this again. And hey, there we go. That looks a lot better. Alright. Which is the... There's the main part. So that does work. It carries that information over. Okay. So I think I see part of the problem. Take a look at this nav ball here. It's showing the orange side up. Whatever control device, whatever probe core we're controlling it from right now is pointing at the ground. Its up direction is actually pointing at the ground right now. Now, I'm still not sure why it's flipping you, because it shouldn't do that unless you have some kind of autopilot trying to help you. Because like I was saying earlier, when I used to use MechJeb, I had that happen to me one time. I had a probe core upside down, and MechJeb would take over at about 100 meters, and it would immediately flip the rocket upside down and drive it into the ground because it thought that that was up. Something's going on there. I'm gonna see if it does it on mine though, because I don't have anything that autopilots. So we'll see. Maybe there's some kind of weird behavior going on in Kerbal Space Program that I'm not aware of. It's already trying to flip. Although I think it's more because it's bumping into its towers than anything else. Oh no. I love how much it lags against the ground. So, I can't be certain if that behavior we just saw was because it's pointing at the ground, or if it's because it was bumping into the towers. That might be part of the problem. It's really big and really tall. And what was the thrust to weight ratio? Let me see here. That may very well be part of it. I can actually check something with this too. Let me pull it up in my build here. What is the thrust to weight? So your thrust to weight ratio is a hair low on that first stage. Now that's hard to deal with, obviously, without a slight redesign. 1.8 will get you off the ground, but the minimum I try to do with most rockets is about a 1.18, 1.2 thrust to weight ratio. The Saturn V actually had a 1.18 thrust to weight ratio. So it's a little low. Now, that's not really a problem. You're still going to get off the pad, but that might contribute. It may be that we're bumping those towers, things are destabilizing, it starts to go over a bit, and that engine just can't generate enough torque to pull it back over and you just get that catastrophic fall. You may need even more than that with this rocket. You may need to go higher. I'm not sure how high. We could try tweaking it. Let me look at one other thing. So I have this RCS build aid tool that helps me when I'm designing an RCS. Yeah, they're definitely up there. They don't have to be super tall. You don't even need a lot of them, really. Like, this might be more than enough. We'll try that. But one thing that this can do, we can actually switch it to engine mode. We can see how much torque the engines generate. Where are we at? Are these gimbaled? Do these gimbal? I don't even remember. Are they gimbal? So they generate a lot of torque if you gimbal them. That's 2.5 kilonewtons. I did notice if we turn gimbaling off, for some reason, it's generating a slight torque force on takeoff. It's not much. Like 0.9 of a kilonewton. Somewhere something is slightly off balancing this rocket. Something's offset. I don't know why that would be happening. Let's see. It probably has to do with these RCS thrusters. I'm surprised that they're causing that. I don't know that that 0.9... what is that? 0.009 kilonewtons of torque force from the engine firing. That's not a lot. It could be enough to topple this rocket. But let's try it with the towers lowered and see what it does. Throttle it all the way up. Alright, you go straight. I think something else is going on here. That's really weird. Mine's flipping almost immediately. Let me try no towers, just to see. I'm gonna eliminate the towers, make sure they're not a problem. I'm wondering if there's some kind of behavior I'm not aware of in Kerbal where it tries to make you go up. Let's see. I'm gonna get rid of the towers. Process of elimination this out. Now, is this thing actually meant to land itself? Like, is it like a standard SpaceX thing where it boosts and then comes back and lands on the pad? It lands out in the ocean. Oh yeah, it's immediately trying to flip itself. What are you doing? Hey, at least the payload made it. I have an idea. Yeah, you know, sometimes that's half the battle. I mean, I'm having the kind of a similar issue with my Saturn V recreation I've been working on, is the launcher is not working properly, although I am going to show off something that I think is going to help in a little bit. So which one of these is the main vehicle? X2. Okay, so this is definitely the one that's controlling the vehicle right now. We need to get that to not be the control node. That's gonna be tricky. Ah, interesting. Also, a fun trick for ease of control. I've just found it's kind of helpful. So, when you by default when you're building something in the vehicle assembly building, this, like, it's facing that direction, and the part of it that's facing us is considered the top of the vehicle. It's the top axis. It's dorsal. You rotate the vehicle when you launch, you can just pull it back and it'll rotate. I'll kind of show you what I mean if we can get it to fly. But I found it kind of helps with big rockets, so you're not trying to control it by turning sideways. Because that just gets awkward. But let's see. I don't know if that's going to flip which one's controlling it. Clip. Let me clip. Clip. Nah, it's not gonna let me clip. Okay. Hey, hey! I got it to switch. It's now pointing up. Let's see what it does. Hey, hey, hey! Progress is being made. We're a few hundred meters up. I think that might have fixed it. So there's, that was it. It was because one of the probe core it was using to fly it was pointing at the ground. So that means that Kerbal has some behavior I'm not even aware of, where for like the first 100 meters it tries to autopilot you straight up. That's interesting. I never knew that. Give this a little pitch. I'm gonna make sure this actually continues to fly for you. Oh, here. Well, we're gonna have to stop this flight. Give me 1 second, because I know if I try to revert to launch, it's going to crash my game. So let's see how far we can get this thing real quick, and then we'll revert to the vehicle assembly, and I'll show you exactly what I did. It's aerodynamically sound. This looks good, man. This I'm hands off right now. It's flying itself. So you've got a nice stable rocket here. I need to pitch up just a bit. I think I'm pitching over too aggressively. Nope, 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 nope. Okay, got it back, got it back. Yeah, that'll get to orbit. Let's see here. Just spam it now? Okay. See what happens. Quick save though. Woo! I spammed it. I don't know if it quite worked correctly. I may have got a little aggressive with my spamming, but I do like this thing. Alright. Oh my god. Oh, am I? Oh, this engine is still firing. Oh no. Interesting. This is fine. It's all fine. These engines, what are these? Oh, these things. Okay, that's cool. How long is that going to fire for? Goodness gracious. See if we can go back to the tracking station. Crash my game. Been crashy lately. Okay. So let me show you exactly what I did. Seems to have fixed the problem. So if we look, the way I got it, the way it came when I first loaded it in my game, this node right here, this control probe, this one was considered the controlling probe for the vehicle. So it was considering that as the master probe. And you'll see it's upside down. So it thought it was pointing at the ground and it needed to flip over. And that's why it kept flipping it over on you. What I did to fix that, it seems to have worked, was I hit the 4 key, which pulls you into, what is that, the root tool, where you can change the root part for the vehicle. And I clicked on this top probe core, and that made it the root part for the whole vehicle. And that seems to have also changed it so that it considers that the control part for the whole vehicle. And that did the trick. Like if we change that again, I wonder if we can make it break again. Now this is the root part for the vehicle. Okay. D. Yep, that was it. As we can see now, so now the root part is that bottom probe core. It thinks it's pointing at the ground. And apparently, I did not know this, Kerbal has some kind of hard-coded behavior where the rockets try to autopilot themselves towards the sky the first 100 meters. So it was automatically flipping it. I didn't know that was a thing. So that's interesting to learn. Now if we recover it and we switch it back again, it should fix it again. Awesome. I'm glad that worked. I had a feeling it sounded so similar to my issues with MechJeb way back in the day that it just felt like it had to be something like that. Yep, there it is. No, this is a really good rocket though. It's very stable. It had no problems flying itself to orbit. I'm gonna check out something else here real quick. So, last time I was working on the whole Apollo 11. Let's load it up real quick. We were having issues here, so I've got this sweet launcher, which I might need to get rid of that mod now. It seems to be causing a wacky issue there, but that's okay. We'll fix that later. So I have this launcher, and it was failing to fly itself. It was failing to fly correctly. It's not telling me the amount of delta V that it should be having, or at least it wasn't that day. It's looking a little more promising here now, but that was causing a problem. I couldn't figure out how much delta V this rocket needed to have per stage to get to orbit. Or let me rephrase that. I couldn't tell how much fuel I needed to put in them to give them the delta V value that I was shooting for. I think it has to do with these new parts. I don't think they're playing nicely with Engineer. But there is a way to figure that out on our own. So let me show you this. I think I popped this up the other day. This is the equation for delta V on a rocket. This is the rocket equation, actually. And the easiest way to do it in Kerbal is this side of it, this version of it. So if you read it, your delta V on any given rocket is equal to its logarithm, the natural logarithm, which is it's an exponential function. It's useful for equations like this where you're dealing with something that changes over time. But it's logarithm natural to your start mass divided by your end mass, and then you multiply that times the ISP times G. ISP you can see in the game. Like if you take an engine and slap it on here, where'd it go? We take a look at that engine. Where's it at in here? You can actually see that anytime. Right here. It tells you sea level and vacuum ISP. And that's the efficiency of the engine. G is the surface gravity of the planet you're orbiting, which for Kerbin it's the same as Earth. It's 9.81 meters per second squared. And that's how you calculate delta V. But that won't help me with the problem I was having with the rocket not telling me how. I couldn't figure out how much fuel I needed to put into, because I knew what delta V I wanted. I didn't know how much fuel I needed to get it, and it wasn't giving me accurate values. So I was basically just kind of changing them randomly to see if I could get it to work. Yes, Kerbal uses the same formula to calculate delta V. There is a way to change this equation to calculate what your start mass needs to be to get a given amount of delta V. And it was part of the reason I was a little late starting my stream tonight. I started at 7:30 instead of 7 because I was doing some math. And I'll pop it up here. I didn't even have time to add it to my nice clean document, so I had to do it in MS Paint. It looks a little sad, but this is the equation. So I rewrote the rocket equation to solve for start mass. So the way that works, it uses base E, which is the opposite of natural logarithm. And it's base E of your delta V, so my target delta V, over my ISP times G, times my end mass, so what's the dry mass of that? I usually start, I've been trying to stick to definitely doing Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I usually start on those days around like 7 p.m. And I stream till usually about 9:30, 10 o'clock. Depends on what I'm playing at that point in time. On other days, it's been a little haphazard. Some days I get to stream, other days, some days I don't. I usually stream at least 1 or 2 days on the weekend, but I'm kind of still working out a set schedule for that. So. But this equation will actually tell you what your start mass is. So let me show you what that actually means. So let's say I have a rocket. Where's that? There we go. I'm gonna build a rocket. Let's build a more interesting rocket. And where's that tank at? Not that tank. Not that tank. That's not the tank I want at all. There we go. Here's a super, well, I don't like that engine. Sure, that looks great. Here's a super basic rocket. So we already know, thanks to Kerbal Engineer, its maximum delta V is 3,703. We know its ISP is 310. And we know how much it weighs right now. But what if we wanted to have less than 3,703 delta V? What if we wanted to know how much mass we should take off? It's actually pretty easy to do. Now, I had to do that in a calculator, and that's what the written part here is. It's actually the equation, how you would type it in a calculator. And I had to use a TI-83 to do it. But if I punch it in real quick, let's say we want to have 2,000 delta V on this rocket. Let me do this real quick. Thousand. And we know that the end mass for this vehicle when it's completely dry is 6,720 kilograms. So according to this, I need to make it weigh about 12,971 kilograms. So let's see if we can do that, give or take. We're not going to get that exact. Unfortunately, we can only kind of do that in variables. But look at that. We're a hair over it. That's about as close as I can get. And we're just a hair over 2,000 meters per second at delta V. So that equation worked. Let me unhide that actually. And all I had to do was change how much fuel I was to get kind of the target mass. So that's kind of a little fun math trick. At some point, I think I'm actually going to do a series of videos where I kind of go over some useful math that you can do with Kerbal to kind of make your life easier. One time I did a mission where I designed a rocket entirely on paper, all the maneuvers it was going to do, built it, flew it. I was off by about 30 meters per second on my final calculation, so that was probably me piloting at errors. So you can do some pretty nifty things with some math. It's not too complicated once you figure it out in Kerbal Space Program. But now I have this trick, so next time I'm doing this, hello! I'm going to work on my launch vehicle, and now I don't have to worry about the fact that it's not telling me anything I need to know about it, because I'll just do it myself. So we're going to get that thing to fly yet. But I don't think I'm going to do that tonight. I think I've had a pretty good night of testing, and Shadow, I'm glad I was able to help you out with that. So it's always frustrating when you've got something that fancy and then it just keeps doing weird stuff. I know how that goes, trust me. So glad we got that working. Yeah, so I think, looking at the clock, it's about time for me to stop the stream for the evening. If you are still watching, I hope you've been enjoying. I've definitely been having a good time this evening. I will be streaming this weekend. I actually have a 3-day weekend, so I'll be streaming at some point tomorrow. I'm just not 100% certain what time. It'll probably be kind of a similar time, 7, 8-ish. So look for me then. And then Saturday and Sunday, I'm not sure yet. It's Easter weekend, so it's really hard to guess what wackiness I'm going to get up to. But if I am streaming on Saturday and Sunday, it'll be probably sometime in the afternoon. So, you know, look for those videos to pop up and look to catch me live if you are around at the same time. And if I can figure that out with a little more accuracy, I'll post something on my channel that says. Anyway, though, I hope you all enjoyed. And if you do want to check out what happened beforehand, if you're just joining us, you know, check out the video once it posts. Did a lot of cool stuff tonight. Had a good time. So, have a good one, and I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you for watching.